The first day of the week had come. The women have gone to the tomb of Jesus. And when they arrive, they find the stone rolled away, and Jesus is not there. But angels reveal to them that Jesus had risen. They ask the question, why seek the living with the dead? Jesus had arose. In Luke 24, verses 13 through 35, we find the story of Jesus and two men who were traveling on the road to the city of Emmaus. This is a very well-known account. Scenes from this story have been painted by many of the great artists of history, including Rembrandt. And more recently, we find that this story was even made into a movie. It all begins with two very sad, very discouraged men walking away from Jerusalem and heading to the village of Emmaus, which was just a few miles away from Jerusalem. Well, while walking along and discussing the recent disturbing events that had just taken place, they meet a stranger. And they begin to converse with this stranger. This brief image of these men gives us some idea of just how disappointed and discouraged the disciples of Jesus were after he was arrested and died on the cross. Much of their grief was no doubt from the loss of their friend Jesus, but also for what they had hoped that Jesus was going to do. They were probably thinking still of an earthly kingdom and a Messiah that would drive away the hated Romans. But that all ended with Jesus' death. This obsession with an earthly kingdom and an earthly king was a problem that had been with Jesus' followers all along. At the beginning of the book of Acts, in Acts 1, verse 6, we see that even as they stood beside the resurrected Jesus, they were still thinking of an earthly kingdom. They still wanted to know when that earthly kingdom was going to come into establishment. Well, this stranger that met these men on the road to Emmaus was actually Jesus, although they did not immediately recognize who he was. He asked them what they were talking about, and they related some of the details about a man named Jesus who had been arrested and had died at the hands of the Jewish leaders. At this point, Jesus explained to them from the Old Testament all of the events that had troubled them so much. He explained that this had all been a part of God's plan, and how the Christ, or the Messiah, had to suffer these things. Well, when they arrived at the village of Emmaus, they invited the man to come in and to stay with them. And as they sat down to eat, this man gave thanks for the food, and immediately they realized who it was. This man was no longer a stranger. They realized that it was Jesus. Now, although we do not understand why Jesus immediately vanished from their sight, as soon as they realized who he was, Jesus vanished away. Quickly, these men returned to Jerusalem and related to the disciples all that had happened to them and how they had seen Jesus alive and well. In turn, the disciples told them that it was true that Jesus had risen from the dead and that he had also appeared to Simon. This is such an interesting story, and this is such a good story that we can hardly imagine the joy and the excitement of those followers of Jesus as they realized that Jesus had died, but that death could not hold him down. He had risen, as he had told them so many times before that he was going to do. We are so indebted to Luke for preserving this story because it's not found in the other gospel accounts. It's such a simple story, yet there is such a powerful spiritual analogy there for each one of us. Whether young or later in life, we all one day meet up with Jesus. At that point, we can either choose to invite him into our lives by submitting to his will and becoming his disciple, We can be like these two men in this story, or we can allow him to continue to walk away from us, to continue on down the road. We do this when we reject Christ. This is a decision that each one of us must make. It's the most important decision that we will ever make in this life. Will we follow Jesus, or will we reject Jesus? Friends, think about these things today, and may God bless you with a wonderful day.